Hey guys, welcome back. This is Brad from probateresource.com. I'm back again today with my friend April Jackson. She is a probate and estate attorney in Nashville, Tennessee, and we are back again talking about all things Tennessee. You can go over to probateresource.com/Tennessee spelled out if you want to check out all the videos that we have. And today we're talking about a sensitive topic, dealing with we'll do two coins here. Sensitive or dealing with a challenging executor, and then maybe some challenging heirs. And you've dealt with all kinds of families over the years, April.
Right.
So, do you have some tips for families who are dealing with this, and maybe how might they get through that hurdle?
Yeah. So first I'll start with, if you have a challenging executor or personal representative, really rely on the attorney. So make sure that if you have communications with the executor yourself, that those are documented, that there's emails. If you have a phone call, follow it up with an email, just so there's a paper trail of the efforts that you have made to resolve the issue. The other thing that, definitely loop in the attorney, because the attorney is the attorney in most cases, they should be the attorney for the estate.
Correct.
So they represent you if you are somebody who is set to inherit. They represent the estate, not that personal, not that executor in their personal capacity.
Right.
And so they are going to try to help you to get that executor moving along, doing whatever they're supposed to be doing, getting information, to try to get that estate closed. If you are just still not having luck with the executor, one thing that you can do, if you have signed what we call consents and waivers, you can actually file to revoke those. So basically, a lot of times, and this is a good thing, that you can waive inventory, accountings, and bond, but, we will often ask inheritors to waive those things, either because it was part of the will or because it's going to save the estate money in the long term. But if you think that the executor is not carrying out their responsibilities or not doing it in a timely manner, even if you have waived bond, inventory, and accountings in the past, you could revoke that waiver.
Interesting.
And go back to the court and say, hey, I actually would like an accounting. What's been happening here?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the last step is to actually ask the court to remove that executor. And at that point, that really is a last resort, because you are having to, if that executor already has stuff that, they've got a check from the bank, but they haven't cashed it into the estate account yet. That's going to be, another challenge. Hopefully everything's already in the bank account. You can just get it switched over, but that's not always the case. So, really work with your attorney. Remember that the attorney represents you if you're an inheritor for the estate. And that's really those are kind of the steps that I would take. Now, if you are an executor or a personal representative and you're you're struggling with getting information, for the heirs and beneficiaries. So you're really only going to be in charge of the probate estate. And so if it's something like a beneficiary designation on a retirement account or life insurance, you just tell them they got to do that on their own.
Right.
If they're the beneficiary, just tell them they have to do that on their own. Now, if they're not communicating with you, the good thing is that your job is to gather the assets, pay any creditors or costs, and then distribute. Now, there are ways to distribute assets. So, for example, let's say that your your person cashed that distribution check, but they never signed the receipt saying they got it. In Tennessee, you can actually file a motion with the court just saying, hey, here's a copy of the cashed check. They're not going to sign my receipt. I've asked them for 3 months, but obviously they got their money because they signed the check. They endorsed the check.
Right.
So that's an option. If you let's say that you have someone that you don't know where they are, you don't know how to access, an address or anything for them, what you can do is you can do a notice by publication that you're looking for the person. And then if you still don't get anything, what you can do is ask to deposit those funds with the court. Say, hey, we're looking for brother number 3 and we can't find him and no one knows where he is. We've tried everything we know to do. We're going to ask that we put his share, that 1/3, pay it to the clerk's office. And then if it shows up at a later date, he can get it from the clerk.
Right.
At a certain point, the clerk is going to send that to unclaimed property.
Right.
But it's not your problem. It's not your attorney's problem. If he wants the money, he can come claim it.
Right. Now, in instances where maybe there's not an executor appointed yet, maybe in case of an administration, and you've got a family, there is no will, it's intestate, right? We've dealt with this a lot. Families cannot agree as to who's going to be in charge, right? Who's going to be the administrator, and then also, more common than not, we deal with one family member that, let's say there's a house involved or whatever, and market value on the house is $200,000. That house is a dump. It needs $100,000 in worth. It's probably only worth $100,000, right? It's a dump. This is a story that happened last week. And one of the heirs is like, no, this house is worth $400,000 easy. I'm not signing off on anything unless we sell it for $400,000. And you've got 3 other family members who are like, dude, you're smoking crack. Like, it's not worth $400,000. It's worth $100,000. I've got 5 offers here for $100,000 and between $100,000 and $105,000. Like, how do you have like a piece of advice to a family that's kind of going through that situation of they're stuck? They got that one pain in the butt, brother that just is being difficult, and he's living in la la land about, reality. Like, how would you address that with your clients?
Yeah. So if you have kind of a difference of opinion of what the real estate is worth, this is really going to be determined by what does your will say if you have one.
Right.
So if you have a will that basically says that the executor is in charge of the property, then the executor is in charge of the property, and they can sell it and then make the distributions. If you don't have that, then really the judge is just saying, here's the will. And the will says it goes to these people. Hey, family, you now own that property. And so if there's really no agreement, then you're probably going to need to file a petition to partition the property, which basically it's a lawsuit to sell the property and split the proceeds. Of course, that's more money.
Yep.
So if, maybe what you say to, or we got a $500,000 house here that's realistically only worth $100,000, maybe you say, hey, if we have to go this route, we're going to pay $100,000 in attorney's fees and nobody's going to get anything.
Right.
That's the long and short of it is that money. If you have to go to court, the money is coming from somewhere.
Yep.
And you want it to come out of the estate, but you also want to minimize those expenditures.
Right. The attorneys win in those situations, not you as the family. The attorneys.
Yeah, the attorneys win. And honestly, most attorneys are going to want to work with you towards the settlement, if at all possible.
Hey.
It's going into litigation it's expensive, but you're also having to look at the cost to your mental health, your time. There are a lot of different things that, you at some point you just have to say, is this even worth it?
Right.
What am I going to get out of that? Not necessarily trying to find a win-win, but just finding a situation that everyone can live with.
Right. I've shared this story before, and we had this situation last year where we had this family reach out to us. It was a brother and sister, and they fought over this property for years in the probate court. Sister petitioned to get brother removed as administrator, and brother petitioned to get sister removed. And they were fighting, and brother went and got an offer on the property, which I told him, was like, that was a really good offer on the property. You should have sold it. Sister says, no, it's worth more money. I've got a friend here. We're going to rehab the house and we're going to resell it. Mind you, sister lives like 3 states away. She doesn't even live there. Like, oh, you're going to drive 3 states away every week and you're going to manage these contractors of this property. Right. And oh, by the way, you got your friend locally, so you got to now split the money with him. So let me show you a calculator, like how this doesn't, your math ain't mathin', And they fought for, I think it was like 4 or 5 years in probate court. And finally, they spent collectively $60,000 in attorney's fees, fighting each other, getting counsel. Their attorneys dropped out. We're like, I'm not in, then they got to go get another attorney. And the other attorney's like, yeah, I'll take the case, but the price is this, because they know they're just getting a payday, right? And then they fought this for years. And then finally, the probate judge said, I've had enough of this. I'm paraphrasing here, but I've had enough of this. I am deeding the property to the 2 of you individually as as tenants in common, 50-50 owners. You guys own it together now. This is out of the probate court. Probate case closed. This is a civil matter. You guys work it out in Superior Court. And they didn't accomplish anything. And the crazy part is if they had taken the offer they got 2-3 years ago, they would have ended up netting more money than they are at this point in time. Because now they've spent all this money and additional taking care of the property, paying for power bills and maintenance of the property. And there was a small mortgage on it, mortgage payments, property taxes, attorney's fees, all these things. For what? And at that point, they were just fighting each other. It was just like bickering and who's going to be the bigger, it was sad to watch. And we ended up not buying the house. And the sister ended up getting him evicted out. The one brother was living in the house and he was taking care of it, right? Because she lived 3 states away. And he had taken care of their mom. When she got sick, he quit his job. Him and his wife quit their jobs and they moved in and were mom's caretakers for her final year. And then afterwards, he's been taking care of the house. He sold his other house. It's not like he was, just mooching off mom forever. He owned another house. He had a job, all that stuff. He quit all that to take care of mom. And then what did they get at the end of the day? Nothing. Nothing. Yeah.
And bills.
And bills. So if you're going through that, just be the bigger person and just swallow your pride. And sometimes you got to kind of pay the devil and just get this behind you. Even if you think it's, as much as you hate doing it, sometimes you got to do it just to move on because it'll end up costing you money in the long run. So, all right. So that's some great tips for dealing with challenging executors and heirs. Thank you so much for that, April. And guys, if you are interested in seeing more of our videos about specifically for Tennessee that we did with April, they're over on probateresource.com/Tennessee. And then we've got a link to April's website if you want to get a hold of her and work with her at SHRM. All right. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Thank you for your time, April.
Thanks so much, Brad.